to what
Recording
it says,
in progress.
Atom Mishamra Bekirbi, that it says that the Eibishter, the level it's higher than Tehoira, higher than Yitzhart and Afachtabi, etc. It's a level of Atom Mishamra Bekirbi, that the Shomer is higher than the ones who he is guarding, and that's why he is able to come down and to be in a way of Yisayvenu and Yevainanehu, that the level of the Makif, that is Yisayvenu, the transcendent, encompassing level, but Yisayvenu will be able to make Yevainanehu, will be able to ensure that the Neshama, the way it's down here below, should be able to make a Dira B'tachtoin. So now he's going to go further in explaining the idea of Tzur. It says also in the parsha, it says Hatzur Tamim Pa'oloi, the one that is the flint rock, that is his actions are whole and complete, etc. So he's going to explain this with the idea of Tzur. He says, to be able to join the level of Atom Meshamra with the level of the Neshama, the way it's down here below, in such a way that it comes down into details, like we began earlier in the Maimer to speak about it, that it comes down through all the different detailed levels of Tahira, Yitzarta, Barosi, Yitzarta, Nafachta, all the four worlds, etc. And that's the idea of Ya'akov, Chevel, נחlתו, the rope, that it comes from the top to the bottom. And he says in the parentheses, for the sake of building, there has to be detail specifically. For this, you need to have the power of the flint rock. And we go back to a different pasuk in the Torah that speaks about the tzur, like it says in the pasuk, behold, the place is with me. It'll be when my glory will pass by, and I will place you in the crack of this flint rock. When Moshe Rabbeinu asked to see Hashem, so this was Hashem's response. The idea behind this is the Ne'isava Medrash. It's brought down the Medrash, Mashakosov, Hine Makim Iti. Why does it say, behold, there's a place is with me? What's that mean, Makim Iti? Hainu Shuhu Mekai Mishal Olam Ve'ena Olam Mekai. That Hashem is the place of the world, and the world is not his place. Everything else finds itself in the world. The world is the place of everything else. Hashem, on the other hand, is the place where the world is in. So therefore, in this, that's why it says over here, Hine Makim Iti, the place is with me. And this is the reason why Hashem is called also in the Lashon Chazal, HaMakim, like we have in the Haggadah, Baruch HaMakim, Baruch Hu. So the Rebbe asks a question, it's not understood. Since the world is not his place, is not the Eibishter's place, it's a level, the Eibishter is a level that's beyond the whole idea of place. Why even mention place? He's beyond place. Don't even mention it. He should have said immediately, without talking about, here there's a place with me that I can play. Don't even say that. Just say, I'll place you in the split, in the crack of the flint rock. And this, the fact that it says, what's the reason for that? That when my glory and honor will pass, for the sake of the glory of the Eibishter, that's why I have placed you in the crack of the rock. So now the Rebbe gives an interesting explanation in the Bavor Kvoidi. The simple meaning is that when Hashem's glory will pass by, and I'll place you in the split, in the crack of the rock, so you will see whatever you were able to see, the back, the knot of the tefillin shorosh, etc. But the Rebbe gives a different explanation over here. Ki ba'avor kvoidi hu k'moi oivrei retzoinoi. When my glory passes by, doesn't mean my glory passing by, but crossing my glory. Someone that transgresses Hashem's will. She'oivrim ala Torah she'nikras kavod. The ein kavod ala Torah. We're talking about chas v'shalom, a person that transgresses the Torah. Because the Torah is called glory. Like Chazal say that when it says kavod, it means Torah. So when it says that ba'avor kvoidi, you have a situation of transgressing on Hashem's kavod, on the Torah. Then there is the fire of Avaya Lekecha, who's a consuming fire, becomes extinguished. How does it grasp on to the person down here? That's through the Torah mitzvahs, as we have in Tanya, the whole story with the Yenuka towards the end of L'Kutei Amarim, that it speaks about that there is the person, and then there is the fire, which is the Shechina on top of his head, and you have to make sure that there's much oil to be able to have the fire burn, and the oil is the oil of Torah mitzvahs. It's called oil. So even though the neshama is a chelik al kam emal mamish, like the Alter Rebbe asks and explains over there in those prakim, still in all it's already a created being, and the only thing that could maintain and make sure that the fire of the Shechina should be resting on the person, that's only when he fulfills Torah mitzvahs. So if chas v'sholem, there is the opposite of that. The person is oivrei retzoinai, he's missing the idea of Torah mitzvahs. So then you have that the fire goes out. The fire leaves the top of his head. He doesn't have the means to be held on to the body, which is likened to a wick, and the oil, which is the Torah mitzvahs, which holds it there. Therefore, yesh tzorech lahoitzi es ha'esh ma'atzur. Once a fire goes out, you need to come and make new fire. How do you make new fire? So you have a flint rock. You hit the flint rock, you get a spark, you get new fire. Just like down here below. Like we said before, if the luminary of the fire was extinguished, then we extract the fire from the flint rock. And this idea down here below is because it's so above. In other words, the Rebbe is saying it's not just a mashal, but like every mashal, especially a mashal is brought down in Torah and Chassidus, the reason why it is that way down here below, the reason why over here, if a fire goes out, you need to go ahead to flint rock to strike a new match and new fire to come. It's because it's descended and it came about from the way it's above. Since that's the way it is above, that's why down here below it's this way. And for this to be able to extract the fire from the flint rock, you need to have effort, you need to have toil, and to such a degree that it's called knocking, striking it. Just like, again, in the physical flint rock, how do you extract fire from a physical flint rock? You need to strike the flint rock. It's interesting that even in common English you use the term striking a match. An interesting concept that they use that term strike, because this is a result, and it's the way it is lamaila, that when you have to extract again the fire of Torah mitzvahs, or the fire that was extinguished because of the lack of Torah mitzvahs, you need a very powerful type of effort to be able to bring this down. You need to do it in a way of striking. What's the idea of striking? It's the idea of the avoid of tshuva, shemagas v'bchinas hatzur shalamayl b'chinas havaya. The level of tshuva reaches to tzur, that's even higher than the level of yud kei vav kei, which is, we said earlier in the Maimer, Ya'akov that Chelik Havaya Amoid are from the level of Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, and they're even higher than the level of Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, but we also spoke about the different levels of Yud-Kei Vav-Kei having to do with Seder Ishtalshlus. But the Tzur is what's necessary to be able to tap into when we need to do Tshuva. Through this, we affect and we draw down the 13 attributes of mercy. That's it's beyond the whole Seder Ishtalshlus. Through the avoid of Tshuva, we reach this level of the Tzur. So that is all an explanation on the part that we said we don't need to explain. Why does it say Ba'avor Kvoidi? Because you need to explain the reason for the Tzur. Why do you need to have the Tzur? Why was Moshe Rabbeinu placed in the Tzur? To indicate that when there is an Oivre Ritzaynai, when there's someone that's Oivre on the Kovid, on the Torah, you need to strike the rock again. You need to have the Tzur again. It's higher than Seder Ishtalshlus, the flint rock, to be able to emanate new fire because of the Oivre Ritzaynai that preceded it. But back to the original question. It's still not understood where it says that the place is with me. Why does he preface the idea of place since he's beyond place? Don't even mention the idea of place. But the idea behind this is, in other words, to put it maybe differently what the Rebbe is saying over here, in the simple pshat of the pasuk, the makom iti perhaps does makes, we could understand it because we're talking here about Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to know where and how this is going to happen. The seeing Hashem says, here, I'm leaving you a place with me, etc., etc. But since the Maimer is explaining a deeper meaning of Moshe Rabbeinu being placed inside the Tzur, inside this flint rock, that's the avodah of Tshuva that reaches to the level of Tzur, reaches to this flint rock that makes the new fire. Based on that, where does Makim come into this? We're dealing with a level that's totally higher than Seder Ishtalshlus. You've given me the Sarachmim, higher than Shem Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. If we're dealing with such a high level, why even mention the idea of Makim Iti? Bavor Kvoidi. You want to get rid, you want to deal with those that transgressed. Fine. There's the Tzur, there's the level of the rock, the Tshuva that reaches all the way to the flint rock to strike a new fire. But what does Makim have anything to do with this? So essentially, this whole explanation was to, in a way, like to explain the question about where does Makim come in. Once you know that Bavor Kvoidi has to do with this idea of the how Tshuva works, etc., etc. So the question is, how does Makim come into this whole process of Tshuva, etc.? So he says at the end of line 24, but the idea behind this is to be able to affect the idea of a building. That's the idea of Yivayneneu, like we said before, that the pasuk that says Yivayneneu means we have to make a building, we have to make a home for Hashem. There specifically needs to be the level of a place. In whatever place that is, we are affecting and we are creating a home down below. Through that, the makom is iti, meaning shamakom nasi iti. Now we ensure that this place down here in this world, that on its own, from an external type of viewpoint, looks like it's something separate, from the Eibishter, through us making Yevoinenehos, through us building a building for Hashem, through us making a dir for Hashem betachtoinim, we are ensuring that the makim will be iti. We are ensuring that the place of this world will be iti. Iti is with Hashem. For this itself, to be able to draw down and make a home for the Eibishter down here below, you need to draw down from Anshocha that's higher than the level of Mokim. That is what they said, that the Eibishter is the place of the world and the world is not his place, which shows that the Eibishter is beyond the level of the place of this world, and to such a degree that he is the place of everything, meaning the whole idea of place is bottled to Hashem. Once you draw down from a level that the whole idea of place is bottled to Hashem, so then because of that and through that, you are able to have the koyach to make a home for the Eibishter down here below. Avol kol zeh, the Rebbe goes on. It all has to come down, even though the Eibishter transcends and is beyond place, he has to come down the level of place. Over there in place is a level of tshuva. Like the Tzemach Tzedek explains, that only down here below in this world it's possible to do tshuva and not in Gan Eden. So when you're talking about bavor kvoidi, those that transgress the will of Hashem, those that transgress the honor of Hashem, the Torah, and you're talking about the tshuva, which is the idea of the tzur, the flint rock that you're reaching up to the highest levels. So he has to say, hine mokim iti, this mokim that's with me, that's down here in this world. That place that's with Hashem, that is the place where tshuva can be performed. The Tzemach Tzedek explains because it has to do with soiviv. This world is made the oira soiviv, and tshuva that can change from one extreme to another needs to have the infinite power of soiviv. Whereas mamal kalam, which is the level of Gan Eden, every single thing is set in its place. Is already the divisions are right there. If a person didn't do what he's supposed to do, they're stuck in it until the cleansing process that they have to go through after 120. Top of the last page. So, Parshas Hazinu, according to this explanation, this interpretation, has a lot to do with Tshuva. And we're after Yom Kippur. Why do we have this idea of Tshuva, of Hazinu after Yom Kippur? Because that's when Hazinu is read many times. So that's the Rebbe talks about now, line 1. This applies also when we read Parshas Hazinu after Yom Kippur. As it's known the story. One time after the Yom Kippur, the day after Yom Kippur, my father-in-law, the Frierdiker Rebbe, went into his father, the Rebbe Rashab, and he asked him, Ma achshav? What now? What's our avodah now? We did the whole avodah, Elul, Rosh Hashanah, Aseres Metshuva, Yom Kippur. We did the entire avodah. What are we supposed to do now? And the Rebbe Rashab told him, it's the dafen Shuvaton. Oh, now we have to first do tshuva. We're first beginning tshuva. There has to be the tshuva in the 4 days between Yom Kippur and Sukkot, that they correspond to the 4 letters of Yud Kei Vav Kei, the 4 days between Yom Kippur and Sukkot. Though tshuva is higher than Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei, still in all, we have the idea of tshuva apply even now after Yom Kippur. So he says in Ois Vav, continuing in the expressing the different meanings in the parsha. So he says in From this we come to the ultimate type of ascent of and quality that Hashem is leading him in a way of bodod. So the simple meaning is that they will not need to gather together for safety. Each one could sit calmly in their own place of habitation, scattered, because they're not worried about an enemy coming. That's what it means. Hashem leads them and makes them be in a state of being alone. Al pi Chassidus, al pi Kabbalah, this means to say, Shulamaylam Esesphiris, that it's higher than the Esesphiris, the Avshe Bodod B'Gematria Eser, though the word Bodod, Dalad, that's 4 and 4, and Beis is 2, so you have 10. That really this is talking about Bodod is the level of the 10 spheres that are completely concealed and hidden within the Ein Sof that's higher than Atzilus. Says that this is similar to what it says Ocean in Parshas Bracha, in the Bracha of Moshe Rabbeinu to the Yidden before he passed away. Betach Bodod Ein Yaakov, that the Yidden will sit surely and confidently alone again. And this is Ein Yaakov. This is similar to what it says by Yaakov Avinu, a similar bracha that Yaakov Avinu benched him. This connection and this aloneness will be like when Mashiach comes, Begula Amitis Vashlema, and the true and complete redemption, like the Mashiach Tzedkenu Bagol Dedan, should be in our way of understanding that it's quick and soon and immediate. There's a medrash he brings down that there's different times when Bodod is used. We have in Tisha B'Av, it says in Eichot, says that how has Yidden sat Bodod. Sometimes Bodod is a negative, so that's why the Chazal say that it has to be like the Ein Yaakov. It has to be similar to how it was Yaakov Avinu gave them that bracha. Let's go back a little bit to the previous page because we have 2 minutes, so we'll take the time. On the bottom of page 6, on the commentary about the why tshuva is only here in this world. So we'll start in line 74 in the commentary on the left side of the page, previous page. Like it's also explained in the Torah of the Alter Rebbe. Today it's to do and not tomorrow to do. Top of page 7 in the commentary on the right. Is the world of action. And in this it was given the choice of a person to choose good. Even if a person already transgressed an Aveda. He is able to do tshuva, to return to the service of Hashem. As opposed to the world to come in Gan Eden, a person doesn't have free choice. Just like the way it came down in this world, that is exactly what he remains with in the world to come. Says, though he sees revelation of godliness so much more powerfully than you could see in this world, and over there in Gan Eden, it's all creatures are nullified. Like it says, the hosts of heavens are bowing down to you, meaning the heaven is referring to the spiritual realms that you could see openly. They're bowing to Hashem. Even the Klippus and Sitra Achra over there in the state of Bittul, the Karle Elokad, they call him the God of gods. Still in all, in Olam Haba, he independently, by his own action of tshuva, is impossible to control his soul and to extract it from the prison and being locked up in the body and its powers and the powers of Shabamis that he was drawn after in this world.